Hello, everybody, and welcome to Interns for Good. My name is Felicia. I'll be your virtual tutor today on narrative essay writing. This course is designed to help students in grades 4 through 6 with their writing skills and maybe even prepare you for the oh-so-dreaded middle school. I'm kidding, middle school is fun, I speak from experience, but writing is a huge part of it, and it's important to find your writing voice. And you, my friend, are at the perfect age to find it, so let's get right to it. The name narrative essay literally implies you'll be narrating a story. So it's going to be your experiences, your imagination, your voice. This is the best place to tell other people what's on your mind and who you are. That's pretty deep if you ask me. We could turn this into philosophy, but like all philosophies in their glorious, somewhat confusing, maybe even inspiring nature, narrative writing is hard. Okay, maybe some of you don't think so, but I think it's hard. Like I'm sitting there with my pencil, this blank piece of paper on my desk, and I'm like, ugh. Oh my god. Paper airplane. No. I mean, there's gotta be a way to write it, right? You're given a prompt. The first thing some of you might realize is you're stuck. Where do you start? And just look at all this blank space you have to fill. That's scary. Like, that scares me. It's like the paper drew eyes and it's staring at you and you're just like, paper airplane! No. Stay focused. I'm gonna tell you what you need to do. Number 1, read the prompt. Duh. Here's a sample topic. Write about the biggest surprise of your life. Cheesy, but after reading this prompt, I'd pick out the things that stood out to you. Just, if you look at it, write about the biggest surprise of your life. What stands out? For me, that's biggest surprise. Biggest implies that it's got to be pretty important and had a lasting effect on you. And surprise can be both good and bad. You can talk about the surprise birthday party that your friends or parents hosted. Now, for most of you, that's probably a memory of celebration and cake and friends and awesomeness and yay. Not me. I'd have a heart attack. So there's a lot of different ways you can go about generating a story. Always consider both sides of a coin when you're thinking of ideas. It'll open up your horizons and give you a lot more things to write about. Make you really get to know and understand yourself and all your emotions. Really deep. We could totally make a philosophy out of this. Step 2. What is the first thing that comes to mind when you read the prompt? Stop. Wait a minute. Before you even begin thinking, now's the actual time to get a piece of paper and then jot down words. Yes, like actually get it off the screen and write something. What are the first few words or phrases that come to mind and write them down? I'm waiting. Pause this video. And it doesn't have to be just words. If you work better with pictures, that's okay too. Like for me, the first thing that comes to mind is a puppy. Yep, that's my dog. Now, why is that the biggest surprise for me? Because my dad literally shows up one day with a dog in his arms without telling me or my brother, and we were just like, what just happened? So yeah, if you have that kind of memory, definitely works too. And if it's still not working, don't be afraid to ask for help. Talk to friends and parents and ask about their biggest surprise. Not what they think your biggest surprise is. Ask about their biggest surprise. Change it up a little. Think out of the box. That can often spark, the best ideas and memories for you. Or you can search deep down in your soul and think about what you value the most. And what kind of event made you value that the most? For instance, generosity, honesty, laughter, kindness, loyalty, any of those. And what made you realize that's what you valued? Because that can often be surprising. Step 3. Once you've got your idea down, you can start writing. Pretty quick, right? Remember, narrative writing is creative, so you can jump straight into writing your story, just like an author jumps into writing their first chapter. You've actually passed the hardest part, which is generating the idea. Now it's time to get to the second hardest part, the first line. Here's a couple ways you can go about starting a story, with a description, a piece of dialogue, or a nice, firm statement. Here's what I mean. First off, description. Since my biggest surprise is getting a pet dog, I decided to describe the puppy. The puppy was black and white, small and incredibly fluffy. If cotton candy had a cookies and cream flavor, this would be the advertisement for it. He was no more than a foot long, curled inside my father's jacket, and shivering from the cold night air outside. Now, descriptions are nice because they set the stage for your reader and are probably the easiest to write because you just stare at something and write exactly what you see. If your biggest surprise is materialistic, or some sort of object or a setting, this is the perfect option. And you don't have to go about describing the actual object either. I mean, I could have started by describing the cold night weather outside and then gradually transitioned to my puppy later on. That would have been totally fine. That's not to say that you should stick with descriptions all the time just because they're easy. This strategy is also the easiest one to get bored with because nobody likes reading big chunks of text. It's tiring and they lose interest real fast. But if you can master it, then your writing voice will come out beautifully. The next strategy is using dialogue. Starting off with an engaging conversation like this. Dad, did you go somewhere for dinner without telling us again? I asked my father when he came home that night. No. Then why does your stomach look like a potbelly? Ah, that's not me. That's a dog. It naturally gets the reader to keep reading the next line and the next because we want to finish the conversation. We want to see what the responses are. Now, this method requires some improvisation because I bet you're not going to remember word for word what somebody said in your story. You have a great memory if you do. And you have to make sure the conversation makes sense and reflects each speaker's character. A lot of thought and time and drafts could be spent on getting this one right, but it's highly effective, and readers rarely get bored of it like they do with descriptions. Plus, you have to make sure you sprinkle dialogue throughout your narrative anyway, just to make the story more engaging. The third strategy is starting with a simple, strong statement. Something as simple and plain as this. My parents don't like dogs. Now, in my example, that might seem ironic and the exact opposite, considering my parents literally bought us a dog without letting us know, but I'm not complaining. Statements are probably the hardest strategy to use out of all three. This is because it's hard to get the right sentence and that really connects with you. It makes you feel good about it. You've got all these possibilities in your head and you're wondering, nah, that's too cheesy, and nope, that one doesn't make sense, and I don't even know what that one means. And if you're like me, when I'm trying to make statements, you're probably concerned about what the person reading your essay will think. Will they like this? Or will they cringe, say ew, and actually make a paper airplane out of it? Yeah, I have been there. But who cares about what other people think? It's your essay, it's your voice. So once you've found a statement that you're actually considering, use it. Slap it down on your paper, keep writing, and don't look back. And I mean, think out of the box. In my example, my statement was both simple and used irony, which is a form of figurative language. You can use things like metaphors, similes, personification, all the other figurative language techniques you know to form your first sentence. Now, this last step out of the whole process is probably the most important step, but very few of us actually do it, and that's to proofread. If you have time in the end, always go back and read your essay. Now, this step is pretty difficult because if you're like me and you're finally done with this annoying essay that took you hours to scribble out, you'll probably just get up, stretch, turn the paper in as soon as possible to get it out of your face, and when you get it back, you'll either make paper airplanes out of it if it's bad, or tape it to your wall if it's good. No. Don't turn in that paper until you've read the whole thing again. Unless, of course, you're in one of those dreaded in-class time settings when you may not be able to read your entire essay again, but that's okay. In that case, you can just turn in the paper at the very end, but don't rush to be the first one done, because first the worst. If you're in class, read silently so you don't disturb others. Check for grammar, punctuation, spelling, or flow, and see if you can hear your own voice in your head as you read it. Make sure it matches your actual voice, because that means you've got a nice, personalized, unique narrative essay. If you're at home, even better, read out loud. Don't be embarrassed. Go to your room if you want to, but you got to read out loud. I speak from experience. When I was in 4th grade, I was in the habit of reading out loud, and I got so used to it that I started whisper reading out loud in class during silent reading time. Of course, I wasn't allowed to do that for very long, but I could still do it at home, and it is incredibly good at training your voice and your presentation skills for middle school and high school. So read out loud. Now, those were the 4 main steps, but here's some optional tips for y'all to consider, and they usually depend on your style of writing. Narrative writing's most difficult parts are in the beginning and the end, so here are a couple ways you can end your essay: with a lesson learned, valuable image, or a lasting impression. It's like, what's the moral of the story? And don't be too intimidated by the ending just yet. Write through the rest of your essay, and the ending will come to you naturally. It's also good to have a nice blend of description, dialogue, and action. Too much action makes the whole story feel rushed. Something like this. I ran, I hid under the stool, I saw him coming towards me, I jumped out, he tackled me. If you do like action though, try making your sentences longer by using transitions, like however, although, and, but, and that will automatically slow things down, like this. I ran and hid under the stool, I saw him coming towards me, I jumped out, but he tackled me. Now this depends on your style of writing. If you work better with shorter sentences and that is what conveys your voice, then stick with shorter sentences. But for other people, if you see too many short sentences together, that could be your opportunity to combine some. Too much description, like I told y'all before, gets boring. Like, I'm not gonna read this. That looks like a nightmare. And too much dialogue actually isn't good either. Conversations don't have as much actual story content as descriptions or actions do. Like, see up here. What's up? Nothing much. Wanna go to the park? Sure, let's go. So how's life? It's okay. Same, it's boring. I wish more interesting things happened. It's hard to move the story forward with too much dialogue, so you gotta have a good mix. Alright, now it's your turn. Get a piece of paper or open a document on your computer to write on. Pick any of these prompts and write a narrative essay about it. Make sure to follow the rules on the left, and when you're done, send it to me here on the right. Look forward to reading your essays, and I will be commenting and possibly editing them to give you suggestions on how to improve your writing. Hope this presentation helps. See you later.